Hello, and welcome to the Fight for 15-Minute podcast. My name is Michael Conti, and in today's episode, we're going to talk with Dr. Chen and hear a little bit about her origin story, her passion for PEC, and any tips and advice for parents. So, Dr. Chen, of course, me and you are really good friends, colleagues, and co-founders of this lovely venture, Parent Empowerment Coaching. I would love to know, how did you first become involved in working with individuals on the autism spectrum?
Good morning. Well, that was about early 2000. I worked as a Gen Ed teacher in Wuhan, China, where I taught the kids just in a Gen Ed classroom, kindergartners, and the school where I worked is an international school. It was run by the whole American system. You have all the Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, and at the same time, because it's in Wuhan, we also follow the Chinese holidays from the Chinese public school. So you can imagine being single. I don't really have much thing to do. There's just like a lot of time in my hand. Besides getting ready for my lessons, there's still a lot of time. So I start to volunteer in a school for kids with autism in Wuhan. This back then, that was the only school for kids on the spectrum and their parents in Wuhan, China. It was run by a doctor. She, in her practice, just started to see more and more kids on the spectrum. She decided to open this clinic. It's in the hospital property, so there's just a building set aside for this school. And during the weekend, I would go there, take care of the kids, and the family can have a break. And during my holiday, I'll go there during the daytime, and the kids will sleep around 11:30 in China. We always have the lunch nap, and after that they will go for a walk, and I would go with them during that walk. And the memory was just so fresh. Even though it was over 20 years ago, I still remember there is a boy, and that was my first time say, "Hey buddy, what's your name?" And he looked at me, he said, "What's your name?" And I was like, my name is Xuan. What's your name? And he was like, "What's your name?" And back then I found it so interesting, like, oh, why this kid keep repeating what I said? And later on I knew it's echolalia, but back then I just felt like this is just so interesting, so I fell in love with those kids, and I fell in love with parents. They are just so kind. They cook the best meal, and yes, I took care of their kids, but I got the best food ever during that time. When I went back to international school, after say Christmas break, one of my friends in international school, Mary Troutman, she was the counselor of our school. She actually lived in Minnesota, and she said, "Hey, Xuan, do you know about autism?" And I was like, actually, I knew very little about autism. And then she said that was a orphanage in Wuhan. Actually, they have several kids on the spectrum, so she recommended me to go there, take a look. I went there and kind of get to know more about autism, and then Mary kind of explained to me what autism is. That's the first time I started to actually know the word autism. The funny thing, Michael, I don't know whether you feel this way, is before you know about autism, it's like none of the people around you had autism. And the moment after you know about autism and start to work with the kids with autism, you're like, oh my gosh, looking around, it's almost like so many kids are on the spectrum.
Yes, it's also that awareness, autism and a lot of other disabilities. So now you see it everywhere. So yes, I feel exactly the same way. I love hearing about kind of your early beginnings, and I can hear almost the passion as you start to learn, about autism. And so what does make you passionate about working with this population?
I think it's the parents. And I think what really keeps my passion going is the resilience, and they never give up. Now I have opportunity working with high school students on the spectrum with very, very limited language, with a lot of behavior like aggression. It is hard, and it's easy to stay with a kid for a year, but this is we're talking about 12 years, 14, 20. And I've seen these parents gone through so many IEP meetings, come to the meetings with the binders, and then advocating for their child. I worked as a special ed teacher. I knew how tiring it is to advocate for your students. And I can't imagine advocating for your child for that long. But I always see that resilience, perseverance in parents And it's hard not to be passionate when you see that tremendous amount of love from mom and dad toward their child.
There is something about, we both come from different sides, literally from different sides of the world, but also you have a lot of school district and a lot of your work. I'm on the provider side with the healthcare system, but we all have seen the parents that they're taking on so much. They have to bring the big binder and do all these things. And you can just imagine, it's that constant advocating, correcting folks. And so I think I can hear where that passion of just providing assistance comes into play. So with that, you do have a research background. And so how does your research background influence your approach to working with this population?
It's funny you mentioned that. I remember in one of the interview after I got my BCBA, the person who interviewed me said like, so you have a PhD in special education and you worked in university as a professor. And now after that, you kind of work in the classroom, public school. And now you are, interviewing for a clinical world. Why don't you just like go straight to the clinical world? I never planned on getting a PhD. When I left China, a little bit story about how I get to know parents in China, how I even come to US to study, and how this whole PhD start to come together.
Yes.
After I volunteered in Wuhan, China, I really felt like God has a calling for me to be a full-time therapist. So one day, I just decided to pack everything, and I told my principal, Mr. Mauer, thank you so much, but I think I have a calling now and I'm gonna be a behavior therapist. Well, there is not many places you can go. You can either go to Beijing or you go to Qingdao. Basically, there's like two main hubs, big centers for parents and their children on spectrum. I chose Qingdao because it's by the ocean. It's a place I love ocean. So I went there and start to work with children, very young children, 3 to 5 years old. We have over 300 kids in that building. And in China, back then, mom is required to be there with their child if there's a problem behavior. So you can imagine we have 200 kids and 200 mom or grandma within the same building. And it was a hard time because I have seen horrible things. There's a lot of good things, but there are also very horrible things. There are instances when a child is making sound, but not really say it in a way that's, understandable. And then therapist would, use some punishment procedure that was very disturbing. That's when I decided this is not the right therapy. There gotta be something better. So actually when I left China, left my job, my intention is to become a therapist. And when I came to the US, my intention is to be a therapist, to be a special ed teacher. It just happened to be, as I was graduating from my master program, my advisor is someone who also has a PhD in speech language pathology. At the same time, study autism and behaviorism. That's where I felt this is a good opportunity to study under someone who's expert in, behavior science, but also is a faculty in Department of Speech Language Pathology. That's when I decided, okay, I'm gonna keep going and get my PhD. After I graduated, then there's a position open at University of Minnesota, did tons of research on, what is the best intervention? What should the intervention look like for children and adults with developmental disability and with autism? And then after that, I went to University of Kansas, continued my line of research. Being a researcher and being a clinician, I feel very empowered myself to, when there's a problem, I know where to look for answers. I know where to, tackle the problem systematically and document the process so that next time we know there's something written and we do not have to start from scratch. And also from a researcher, a lot of my friends are in university. I think the reality is there need to be more connection between the research world about autism and we're actually doing here as clinician. Having friends in the research and also myself be in the clinical world, I think I'm in a perfect position to connect the two, kind of reach out to my friends saying, hey, this is a clinical problem we have encountered. what are some research out there, and be able to go into the research literature and find out what people have done that has shown to be effective.
There is a special bond, and I think it goes to your journey and how you've been able to spend the time on the research, which is very important, but then also spend time on the applied side. And for me, I'm coming from almost the exact opposite end of the spectrum. I spent so much time on the applied side, and then I've also later in my career started to get into research. And so that really helps so that it's not just the academia and it's not just the applied, we need both. And you're correct, there is just always a little bit of a gap between them. And I'm really happy that we actively spend time trying to bridge those gaps.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I see a lot with you as a researcher, and especially we, of course, wrote a book called Off the Waitlist, A Parent's Guide for Children with Disabilities. And so from your perspective, why must parents be proactive while they're on waiting list or just received a recent diagnosis?
Well, the truth is that, autism is a developmental disorder. By definition, this is not a one-day battle, right? I remember when I was in China on the playground, and then a parent came to me, said, "Hey, I want to let you know, if you ever see me in the grocery store, please don't say hi, because I do not want people to know my kid has gone to a center for children with autism. Our plan is to stay here for 2 years, and when we leave this place, my kid did not have autism." Now, that's not, for a majority of kids on the spectrum, that's not the case. This is a long battle. Another truth is, as your child grows older and older, it becomes more challenging. Imagine, you have a 3-year-old, and then we are working on some skills. You can prompt, you can help, there's a lot of things you can do. Now, when a child is, say, teenager, that looks very different. I have worked with many kids that do not allow you to prompt, even to show you, oh, this, can you write in this way? And this is the work we are doing. Often presenting work means aggression, hit you on the head, smacking you down. Those were not a big problem for young children because they are little, we can teach, the staff feel comfortable to teach. But once your child, has grown pretty strong in the teenager year, therapists are, myself included, it's scary when someone hit you, especially hit you on the face. And challenging behavior is much more preventable, I think, during very young age. And another thing we talk a lot about in our book is that brain plasticity. When there's a lot of fundamental skills, again, we talk about in our book the joint tension, the imitation, and be able to have a shared interest of the adult around you, and be able to imitate the play, and be able to look at something when an adult point at a fun toy and sit next to a friend and play toy, on the playground asking a friend, can you play with me? All of those are fundamental skills we are teaching, which is very important in a very young age, right? By 9 months, a child developed joint attention. When the baby was born, there was imitation skill there. All of these need to be taught, for many kids, explicitly taught in a very, very young age. So that's why I felt the strong mission together as a PAC team that we need to think about early intervention, how to empower parents have the skill and the knowledge to deliver that early intervention.
Really helping build early structure. So I think that's what the challenge is A, there's waiting lists everywhere. Mm-hmm. We're started traveling, visiting different countries, and whether it's the United States, whether it's China, whether it's Mexico, whether it's South Korea, we're still running into, it takes a long time just to get a diagnosis. And in a lot of cases, a longer time just to get any assistance. The assistance could be good, it could be bad, it could be average. And so I really think for parents early in the journey that they have some control over those core skills. And of course, you mentioned imitation, which is a bedrock to help a lot of future skills, following directions, understanding the environment around them by naming it. So I like that we help parents, empower them so that they can start some of these processes without just having to wait 6 months, 1 year, 18 months to move forward. So what are some of your hopes for yourself and for parent empowerment coaching?
Well, I do have a lot of hopes for myself and our company, but I do want to touch one thing before I talk about the hopes is I felt like our message about early intervention, I want to make it clear that it's not saying if your child is adolescent or older, there's no hope. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is there are several fundamental skills: joint attention, imitation, attending skills. Those are fundamental when your child were very, very young, like developmental sequence. That's where we started. Now, once a kid is in middle school, in high school, there's still a lot of hope. Like a lot of BCBAs, myself included, and Mike, yourself included, we are working with adolescents and adults with autism, right? Like there's always something we can work on together, like self-advocacy skills, life skills, and how to, date, and those skills that matter for our quality of life. I just want parents to understand, if you are a parent of kids that are much older, this is not a message of despair. It's just for parents of younger children. If you are on the wait list, to start to think about taking action now, and hopefully you can join a pet community. We can start to work on those fundamental skills.
I like that clarification because really there's two groups of parents that we assist. We do spend a lot of time with the parent that's on a wait list and have a recent diagnosis, because we can really help them, put them in the best position to optimize their home, their environment. But you are correct. We actually spend a lot of time with a lot of kids that are at the end of their school journey, have left the school system, and really helping those parents with still that piece of structure.
Right.
So of course, we're fans of the 3 days, 30 days, and 90-day plan, and just really help on setting good goals. How do we set clear goals so that we know what is working? I know for us, and talking to a lot of parents are trying lots of different things at the same time. Sometimes it's hard to know, is this intervention working versus this one? Is this supplement working versus this medicine that the doctor gave me? And I really think it's more using project management and really helping to isolate as much as possible so that they as a family can make better decisions. So thank you for that clarification, that we kind of work on both sides of helping out parents no matter where they are in the journey.
Exactly, yeah.
So yes, with thinking about the PEC and kind of your hopes, what do you envision how we can help out parents that we run across?
I think my vision is that we can create a community of parents. As I said, this is not an easy job. Actually, I cannot think anything that's more rewarding, at the same time more tiring than being a parent, not just a parent of kids on the spectrum that require extra support. With the community of group of parents getting together, and I see our mission is to help out the parents, support each other, and then have the knowledge and skills they need to be a good advocate for their child and in a really good position to help their child. And we have a lot of resources on our website. We have different classes, as we mentioned, joint attention, imitation. Parents can sign up and then take the courses whenever they want, wherever they are. At the same time, I think one thing we do that is so cool, at least for me, is that we have the group coaching. We are, as an organization, we're not just like, here's online course, you can sign up and good luck. And we actually want to meet with the parents, have other parents together, like 5 parents or 7 parents. We are a community and we coach parent, we look at the videos they have taken and give them feedback. We talk about different skills, strategies, things they can do at home. So with the online courses, with the group coaching, I think we can help a lot of parents to be a better advocate for their child.
I love the tribe aspect, and you're right. That is what we continue to build. Because what me and you both find out, there's always these pockets of parents. There's a lot of parents doing solo journeys, or there's a very tiny group of parents in one small city that are working together, but they all have very similar stories.
Yeah.
And I think the more that they realize that you're not alone in the journey that you're on, that there's a mom in Minnesota, there's a mom in Nigeria, and there's a mom in Buenos Aires going through a very similar situation, it helps you realize that you can pool resources. You can really look at activities, whether local in your community or just by age or by behavior. So that's what I like. And then the second thing is a lot of these parents have passion projects. So we run across parents that have created something that has worked for them. And so it's really promoting some of these parents' passion projects and really making sure that they get a wider audience. And so I really like that for what we do, and it really gets us excited meeting all these different folks. So any final thoughts as we close out a beautiful origin story?
I'm so glad you mentioned about parents' passion project. Michael, I felt like at the end of the day, parents understand their kids the best. Yes, as a clinician, we have seen a lot of kids. We have the training, we have the research, but I think what often work out the best is someone who is with their kid every single day. They know what's working, what's not working. And I think with this PAC community within our tribe, parents are probably gonna find a lot of answers from other parents like, oh yeah, all my kids eat is goldfish. And for 2 years, the only thing on the menu is goldfish. Then I tried this, and then my kids start to eat another type of food. Probably there's some parent tell you the journey about how she cut the kid's hair and what kind of meltdown that was. And after 2 years, her journey of going from meltdown to actually the kid is okay having his or her hair being cut. And I think that's the power of the parents, their own journey, their own passion. I'm just really excited to see, we all come together, clinician, parents, special ed teachers, the teacher's aide who worked with children every single day, come to school every single day. We are together as a community. And I think that's the passion of PAC, that we are here serving a bridge to bring people together.
I love that. I really do. And something that we want to do in the future is actually start to interview parents to hear their stories. And they can tell their stories. And that way, for any parent that has a similar journey, there's a kind of bonding experience. So thank you for sharing your story and your passion for PEC. For parent empowerment coaching, our job is to empower parents and optimize the home setting and just really give the parent the ability to do what's best for them and also their child. And so subscribe, let us know how we could be of assistance. Until next time.
See you next time.